The film begins by framing in the foreground a man asking for favors from Vito Corleone, the godfather of the Corleone family. He tells him about two boys who tried to get his daughter drunk and take advantage of her, who resisted, so out of anger they brutally beat her to a pulp. The man wants justice, so he came to Vito Corleone, who after years devoted mainly to organizing illegal gambling and syndicated rackets has become the most powerful of the 5 leaders of the Italian-American mafia in New York. His family runs a huge illegal business and the power is based on violence, but also and mainly on friendship. Don Vito bestows friendship on those who ask him for favors, and in return he demands absolute devotion and gratitude. In this way he has created, over the years, a network of acquaintances and protections in the so-called legal world. The godfather then agrees to avenge the man's daughter, and in return he says that in the future he must return the favor. We then discover that we are in the midst of the wedding party of Vito's daughter Connie, and the festivities take place in full Sicilian tradition. Also present at the party are Santino, aka Sonny, Vito's eldest son, second son Frido, stepson Tom, a brilliant lawyer turned advisor and right-hand man to the boss, and finally Michael, aka Mike, the only one of the 4 sons not yet involved in the family's criminal affairs. Michael sits at the table with his girlfriend Kay Adams, and he is wearing his military uniform since he has just returned from the army. The boy tells Kay how business is conducted in the family, and how much violence is behind it, but reassures his fiancée that he is not like the others and does not lust for power and blood. As a surprise at the wedding comes the famous singer Johnny Fountain, who entertains the guests and the bride and groom. Later he goes to the godfather's office to ask a favor. He is trying to get into the movie business, but director Waltz has denied him the part in his next film that would bring him a lot of success and fame. Don Vito assures his old friend that he will get the role in the film as they will make a proposal that the director cannot refuse. He orders his stepson Tom to personally fly to Hollywood and solve the problem. Business concluded, the godfather spends time with his daughter and shares happiness with the rest of the family. Upon landing in Hollywood, Tom meets Waltz and asks him to give up the lead role to Johnny in exchange for any favors the family may offer him. Waltz is angered by this request and chases the lawyer away, claiming that he is not afraid of threats and that he is a tough nut to crack. The director lives in a luxurious mansion full of guards, and he is very fond of his favorite horse, which he paid nearly $1 million for. The next morning Waltz wakes up in his bed covered in blood, with the head of his favorite horse between his legs. He screams in horror, and later agrees to cede the lead role to Johnny. It is clear that the ways of the Corleone family are not gentle at all, and no one can refuse a request from Don Vito, not even someone as rich and powerful as Waltz. Back home, Tom talks to his father about Sollozzo, a dangerous drug trafficking criminal affiliated with the Tattaglia clan, one of the 5 New York families. The godfather agrees to meet with the man to hear what he has to say, but when Sollozzo asks him for $1 million and political protection, Don Vito refuses as he does not see eye to eye with the drug trade. His family's main business is gambling and union corruption, so he does not intend to expand into other business and risk making powerful enemies among influential politicians. Sonny and Tom would like to accept Sollozzo's proposal, but they have respect for their father's wisdom so they do not protest. Don Vito is not stupid and quickly realizes that rejection will not be taken well by the other families, as it is a clear obstacle to their nascent business, so he sends his trusted friend Luca to infiltrate the Tattaglia clan and find out their next moves. However, Sollozzo is not stupid either, so he kills Luca as soon as the latter asks him about the business. Later Sollozzo stops Tom on the street, forcing him to get into his car to hear what he has to say. Frido and the godfather go into town on business, but they are ambushed and Don Vito is hit by bullets from Sollozzo's henchmen. He falls unconscious to the ground, and Frido cries as he was unable to protect his father. That night Michael and Kay leave the movie theater and have a good time, but Mike's mood changes dramatically when he reads in the newspaper that his father is in critical condition at the hospital. Mike calls Sonny, who informs him that they don't know anything about their father's condition yet, but that for now he will take over as the head of the family. Sollozzo, meanwhile, forces Tom to pressure Sonny into accepting the narcotics business, counting on the fact that Don Vito has now been forcefully removed from the command. Tom agrees, because he knows that refusal will lead to a bloody war between the families, so when he attends the Corleone meeting he tries to change Sonny's mind, but Sonny is now blinded by rage and intends only to avenge his father. Sonny receives Luca's bulletproof vest with fish inside, a message that suggests Luca sleeps with the fish at the bottom of the sea. Michael realizes that the situation is becoming increasingly tense, so he meets with Kay and asks her to return to his parents' home until everything is resolved, although he fears that this will not happen soon, as the war has just begun. After this he decides to visit his father at the hospital, but finds that it is empty and all his bodyguards have been sent away by the police, so Don Vito is alone and vulnerable. Realizing that goons are coming soon, Mike plays smart and pretends to be his bodyguard to send Sollozzo's men away, although he is unarmed. The tactic works and the father is saved, but he is still arrested by the police chief, who punches him in the face for saving Don Vito from death. The police chief enjoys the protection of the other mafia families, and he is close friends with Sollozzo, so he is not afraid to hit the Godfather's son. Mike is saved by the arrival of Sonny and Tom. Sollozzo asks for a meeting with Michael to discuss business, as he is the least aggressive son of the three. Sonny does not intend to give the meeting the go-ahead, but Michael says he must go, as the only way to resolve this situation is to kill Sollozzo once and for all. The Corleones then organize a plan in which Mike is to kill both Sollozzo and the corrupt police chief using a gun previously hidden in the restaurant's bathroom. Mike is searched before the meeting, pretending to have come in good intentions, but during dinner he is clearly nervous and tense, so he leaves to go retrieve the gun, and on the way out he kills Sollozzo and the police chief. To avoid being arrested or killed, the young man then leaves the United States and takes refuge in Sicily. There he meets and falls in love with Apollonia, a young Sicilian woman whom he marries in a very short time, but who dies a few months later in a car bomb attack that he fortunately escapes. Meanwhile, in New York, Santino falls into an ambush in which he is brutally murdered, betrayed by his brother-in-law Carlo Rizzi, Connie's husband, who already in the past showed aversion towards his family of assassins, and on several occasions he beat his wife. After months in the hospital, the Godfather finally returns home, although he is still in very poor condition. He discovers that Sollozzo has been killed by Michael, and his son has fled the country, so he remains very sad because this has led to the death of his son Sonny. He realizes that this bloody war will never have an end and his other sons will also die sooner or later, so as soon as he recovers, Don Vito reassumes command and decides to end the feud by calling a meeting between the heads of the major mafia families to negotiate a truce. During the meeting, the bosses decide to allow drug dealing, with certain rules that everyone will have to abide by, to avoid a new war. In exchange for peace and a guarantee of Michael's safety, Don Vito agrees to put his judicial protections at the service of the nascent deal, partly because a new refusal would only bring death to his family, which would find itself alone in fighting everyone. Returning to America, Michael takes his brother Sonny's place in the family, and before long his father hands over leadership to him, retiring to private life and continuing to advise his son from behind the scenes, which is the position that is taken from Tom. At the same time Michael marries Kay Adams, his old girlfriend and college classmate, and by her he then has a firstborn son, Anthony. The Godfather dies of a heart attack in 1955 while playing with his nephew in his backyard garden. During his funeral Michael receives a proposal from the heads of the other mafia families to enter into a new peace agreement. Thanks to his father's old advice, however, Michael knows that the bosses want to take power away from the Corleone family and realizes that during the meeting they will kill him, blamed in part on the betrayal of Moe Greene, an old political friend of his father's. In a deft move, Michael anticipates events by having the rival heads of the family and Moe Greene killed one by one during his nephew's christening, while also punishing with death those who had previously betrayed him, namely his brother-in-law Carlo Rizzi, who years earlier had betrayed Santino by ambushing him. On Michael's orders, Carlo is strangled by regime boss Peter Clemenza, Santino's godfather and mob preceptor. Coming out of the mafia war and once they regain power in New York, the Corleones complete preparations to move to Las Vegas, where gambling, a traditional family business, is expanding in seemingly legal form. They intend to take over the local casinos and hotels, making overtures the bosses cannot refuse. Ironically, Michael, who at the beginning of the film was very far removed from the family's mafia actions and frowned upon certain illegal behavior, becomes the cruelest and most ruthless godfather the family has ever had. Sister Connie bursts into the study accusing Michael of her husband's death. Kay asks Michael if what her sister-in-law has shouted is true, but Michael, lying, denies it, not before ordering her never to ask him any more questions about his affairs. His wife, however, realizes the truth when she sees Michael receiving in her father's study the tributes due to his new title of Godfather. This scene concludes the first film in the trilogy. In the description you will find links to summaries of the second and third parts. Subscribe for more videos like this one, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching.